101 North coming out of Salinas. And I've spotted a funky little 90s collector car of sorts. Part of a class of collector cars that are beginning to emerge as desirable. Cars that maybe 10 years ago would be rapidly thrown away or given to the junkyards for nothing are starting to now be set aside, and the values are going up little by little. Probably similar to how muscle cars were back in the, I guess, 80s? I don't know, I was born in 85, so I wasn't there. But I have to imagine that a 69 Pontiac or a 67 Mustang had some collectability, but they were kind of like, 15 to 20-year-old, 25-year-old junk cars. They looked kind of goofy among the 80s cars. But then something happened in the 90s where those 60s muscle cars and 70s muscle cars started to look differently to people. People started to see them as collectible, interesting collector cars, even though only as far back as 1985, 1980, they were throwaway cars. And these Japanese imports and German imports from the 80s and 90s are starting to do the same thing. This is what appears to be about a 93 Celica. Not a Supra. This might be like what a Mercury Montego was back in the 70s and 80s. A muscle car, sure, but not really like a Mustang. It's not a GTO. It's not a Judge. It's not a Cadillac. But something fun, reminiscent of an older era. And this is just one of those cars. Let me get out of the way because I'm going to get into an accident here. This guy's got some little racing stripe on his fender. Let's get the front look. Yeah, they stick out in traffic. You see them, you say, hey, what's that? Nothing majorly special, but certainly fun. So keep your eyes out. These little cars that were shit boxes 10 years ago, and to some extent still are. Hey, look, here we got another one. Volkswagen Caddy. Goofball truck back in the 90s. Now they're desirable. People investing money into them. So again, there's this trajectory that cars go through. Every year there are a number of specialty cars that come out. Infiniti will put one out. Toyota will put one out. They'll put these little special cars out. The rest of them, the Camrys and Corollas and Accords, they don't matter. They're never collectible. They're never important. But the Hyundai, how do you pronounce it? I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but the Veloster, that's going to be a car that you probably can't give away 10 years from now, 15 years from now. But at some point in the 2030s and 40s, the 2040s, you'll start to see vintage Hyundai Velosters. I know I'm saying it wrong and it sounds silly, but you're probably going to start seeing collectible, retro, old school Hyundais from the teens, the 20 teens. Mustangs like that are going to be sought after as classics in 25 years because something happens. The cars are new and they're badass. Then they're 5 years old and they're still badass. Then they're 10 years old and they are tired. 15 years old, can't give them away. You see them at wrecking yards. 20 years old, they bottom out. They're straight worthless. 25 years old, all of a sudden the people that were teenagers and in their 20s and even in their 30s when that car was new are now in their upper 30s, 40s, and 50s and want some nostalgia, and they're no better way than an old car. And all of a sudden, these junk, throwaway 2015 cars, 2020 cars, 2021 cars that were brand new and amazing this year, can't give them away in 15 years. All of a sudden, in 25 years, people are buying them at auction, and they're investing in them. So it seems to me that it would be smart if one had the extra cash and storage space to start buying 15 and 20-year-old collector cars. Shit boxes. The cars you see parked next to the fields that were purchased for $500, these pieces of junk. Well, some of those 20-year-old collector cars are low mileage and fully optioned and not in bad shape. They're just at the lowest point that they're ever going to be. Buy them and set them aside. Now, you're going to need a warehouse for this. You don't want to do this in your alley and in your driveway. They rot when they're out there. And then at sometime around 25 and 30, pull them out. Oh, wow. Mint condition, low mileage E30 BMW, fully optioned, clean. Purchased when? 2005. 15 years. They were worthless. Couldn't give them away. Now, 2025, 2030, it's a 30-year-old car. All of a sudden, you start seeing them on Bring a Trailer. You start seeing them on the auction shows. You start seeing people putting tons of money. Who's putting tons of money in them? People who were 20 back in 1992. Right now, they're 55. They're 60. They got plenty of money, and they want one of those E30s again. And you were smart. You bought one, and you put one in a shop like that out in the country. And guess who's got a low mileage, clean, original everything, factory everything, never had a chance to deteriorate, fully optioned, stickers and paperwork and provenance, and blah, 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 you. Is that investment going to be better than stocks or real estate or gold? I don't know. But at least while you're holding it, you get to drive around every once in a while and have some fun. You can't do shit with gold. Look at it. Ooh, pretty. Back in the drawer. Stocks, that's boring. You just sit on a screen unless you're flipping them. Real estate, you live in it. That's cool. But you're also kind of driven crazy from it. Anyway, I'm just running my mouth. I don't know what I'm talking about. Till next time.